All right, you should hopefully be seeing my screen by now. I've got BPM up online and in the account section right now. And I'm going to be going through some filtering examples. Before I do that though, I want to show you how you can turn on a count of how many records are in the list that you're viewing. When we're doing different search examples, it's helpful to be able to see. Sometimes the list doesn't look like it's changed much, but it actually has. So that is a function you can get to from the View menu. It's under the Setup Summaries option. Within here, all you have to do is check this box to say Display Number of Records and save that change. And now over on that right corner, I can see how many records are in the list that I have up at the moment. All right, so we're going to start with the simple basic filters. Those are going to be right here in this Filters and Folders menu, the first option there, the Add Filter. When I click that Add Filter, it's going to pop up a list of fields that I can search by. Again, that list is going to be limited to the fields in my section that I'm searching. However, it's not going to be limited in terms of any custom fields you might have. Any custom fields you've added to that section are automatically available on that list. No additional setup is required for that. It's going to default to the name field because it knows that frequently that's something users want to search by. I'm going to do just a really quick example of that. The thing I want to make sure I point out about that is the name field does do a contain search, which is really handy. So it's searching for that value anywhere in the name, which means it doesn't matter if it's the first word or not. I know sometimes other systems will default to a starts with search, so it's nice that BPM Online defaults to that contain search. All right, I'm going to clear that filter out by clicking the X there and come back in and add a couple of other filters. I want to show you an example of how those filters get combined if I use more than one. I'm going to filter on the type field here. The type field is a pick list field, so it's going to bring up the list of options for me automatically. I can go ahead and pick the option that I want. Let's say we're looking for customers. As soon as I click an option that I want, it is applying that filter for me. So the list immediately updated at that point. I don't have to hit enter or click anything else. And I can use multiple basic filters simultaneously. So I can come back into the menu and just add another filter and say filter on category. Once again, it's a pick list, so it'll pop up. I'll pick my value. And what I wanted to make sure to point out about that is this here is using AND logic. So the list that we're viewing right now is only data that is both marked as type equals customer and category equals A. If only one of those things is true or neither of them is true, they are not going to be on the list here. If I want to not be so restrictive and remove one of those filters, again, I can just click the little X icon on that filter to add it. There is also a tag filtering option. I'm not really sure why it's not under the filter menu, but for whatever reason, it's here separate. If you want to filter by a tag, you can just click into the tag box, and I tagged something as user group earlier. So here again, it would be combining these two different filters, so the type is customer and the tag is user group. If there were other records tagged user group that were not customers, they would not be showing up in the list right now. All right, let me clear those out. So again, basic filters, really simple, really easy, reasonably powerful for how simple it is to use. Where things really get powerful though and more complex capabilities is within the advanced filters. So to use advanced filters, you're going to go back into that same filter menu, but instead of clicking Add Filter, we're going to switch to Advanced Mode. And that's going to open this Filter Builder panel for me. So we can use Advanced Mode to do something just as easy. So I'm going to start off with the same example that we just did, which is customers who are in that A category. The way I would build that here in Advanced Filtering is I would click this Add Condition option. It will pop up a window for me to pick what field I want to search by. This is going to be the same list we were just looking at, and I can scroll or type through that list same way and pick the field that I want. It will then give me some options for what type of search I want to do. So this is another difference between basic filtering and advanced filtering that I didn't think to put on that slide, which is that I don't have to just do an equals search. I could do an is not equals to, is filled in, is not filled in, and other types of searches based on the field type. In this case, I do want to do an equals search, so I'm going to just click on that question mark and then pick the value or values that I want to search by, in this case, customer. And then I'm going to repeat that process to add my second condition. So I'm going to click Add Condition, find the category field, and then select that A value. One thing that you might be noticing is that as I built out that search filter, it did not update the list on the right side of my screen. Advanced filters often, again, tend to be more complex. Rather than constantly querying the database as you're updating that search filter, it's going to wait for you to tell the system that you are ready to see the results of that. And the way you do that is by clicking the Apply button here. So it only updates the list on the right when I click the Apply button, telling it that I want to do so. And here you can see that we get those same 6 results for this search, whether we do it as a basic filter or an advanced filter. Again, one of the differences between basic and advanced filtering is the ability to use OR logic instead of AND logic. So it's still going to default to AND logic because that's the most common form of searching. Is when I have multiple conditions, I want them all to be true. But sometimes I want OR logic. Find me everyone who is marked as a customer or is category A. And so to change my search to that, I would just click where it says AND to switch it to an OR. And here again, if I want to see the list update, I have to click that Apply button to make that happen. I'm going to go ahead and add one more a filter in here or condition in here before I move on to my next example, mostly because I didn't find a better place to put it, and it's an important one to know about. So let me just switch this back to an AND search because it's more consistent with how we typically would search. And I'm going to add one more condition. I want to specifically talk about searching by the owner field. So the owner field, as you probably know, is the contact who represents the user who's responsible for this particular record. So who is the owner of the account. When you are doing advanced filters by the owner field, it's going to give you a couple of options that are going to pop up. And most of the time, you will probably want the bottom option, which is current contact. That current contact option is going to automatically search for contacts owned by the person who's logged in to BPM Online. This is really important when I go to share folders that might be based off of this filter, because when I'm logged in as myself, it's going to show me my contacts that are assigned to Megan. If Deneen logged in and was using the same folder, that current contact setting would show Deneen accounts that are owned by Deneen. And so that way you don't have to have, a different folder for each person with the same filters except for assigned to them or owned by them. You can just say use the current contact, whoever's logged in. In the scenario where you do actually want to pick one or more people and specifically say, maybe this is everyone in a specific team that I want to look at. How are people in my team doing? I can still pick specific contacts to find those people and filter to them. But more of the time, you're going to use that current contact setting. All right, I'm going to go ahead and clear these filters and then start from scratch with a new example. And I want to do a couple of examples where you are connecting to other sections in BPM Online, because I think this is really where advanced filtering becomes extremely powerful. So one thing that I might want to search for is a list of accounts that have open opportunities at the moment. And so that's something that I can do from the account section just by adding my condition here. And when I go to my add condition window, this time I'm not going to click into that column box. This is, again, the list of all of the different fields in the account section. Instead, I'm going to click this plus button next to the account table to be able to pick a connected object. So this is going to bring up a list of all of the other tables, all of the other sections that are connected to the account section. And I can search within that to find what I'm looking for. Sometimes, and opportunities is an example of this, you're going to see the same section listed repeatedly. That happens when there are multiple links between the sections. So in the case of opportunities, there is an account for the opportunity, which is who are we selling this to, or hoping to sell this to. There's also the option to link an opportunity to a partner account, as well as to a competitor who won the opportunity. So I have to pick which of those links I want to use, in this case, who the opportunity is with, who the account is, before I can move on to the next step. Once I've picked the section that I want to connect to, the column list here is going to have a few options for me. Most of the time, the option that you're going to choose here is quantity, and we'll see more about that in a second. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick that. So you can see here, it now is listing the section that I'm connected to. And because I picked quantity, it's going to give me this count option. This would allow me to say something like find all accounts that have more than 3 opportunities or more than 10 opportunities, however many I want. I can also do more than 0, so just they have some. And I can do that by typing count is greater than 0, just clicking on here and typing the 0 in there. Or if I click on the count option, there's also an exists setting, which is the exact same as doing count is greater than 0. There's also a does not exist, which we'll use on the next example. Now, right now, if I apply this search, I am asking the system to find all opportunities or all accounts that have any opportunities. But what I was looking for was accounts with open opportunities. And so I need to add another condition in here to say only look at the open opportunities. You'll see that we now have 2 different plus buttons where we can add conditions. The first one is where it was before, so in line with the other conditions. And this would allow me to add new conditions at the account level. So if I wanted to go back and add in another condition, account type or category or any other account field, or even connect to another section, I would do that from here. However, I want to add a condition that's specific to this opportunity count condition. And so I'm going to do that at this plus button that's sort of embedded underneath the opportunity condition. When I do that, it's going to bring up a list of opportunity fields instead of a list of account fields. And so if I want to look for open opportunities, I can do that with the stage field. And then I can either do equals or does not equal and pick the stages that I want to include or exclude. It's not going to matter whether I do equals and pick the open stages or not equals and pick the closed stages. So whichever one is faster or easier for you is fine. And we can click the apply button to see that list update with the current conditions. All right, I'm going to start over again and do another example, another one where I'm connecting to a section. And this time I'm going to look for all accounts that don't have any activities in the last 90 days. So this might be a good follow-up list, if you want to make sure you're reaching out to all of your customers every 90 days or whatever the time frame might be. To do that, again, I'm going to use the plus button here in the condition builder to connect to the activity section. And I'm going to use the quantity option again. And this time, instead of doing a count or exists option, I'm going to do a does not exist because I want to look for accounts that don't have corresponding activities. Now I need to put some activity or some conditions in around those activities. So again, I'm going to use the indented or embedded plus button to do that. I want to put in a date filter. So I'm going to look for the due field and use that one. And when I'm filtering on a date field, I'm going to have a different set of options than what we've seen on some of the other fields, allowing me to specify relative time periods to search by. And that's really important, especially if we were going to save this as a folder, as a saved filter, because that way the time period would always adjust based off of the current time when I'm running that filter. So if I want to look for the previous 90 days, I'm going to go into the day section and find a day-based condition, and then I'll pick the previous days option here and type in 90. So what that means is today it would give me the last 90 days from today, but if I were to use this in 3 months, it would give me the last 90 days from that point, so it's always relative to the current date. Again, we'd have to click apply to see that list update to reflect that search. All right, I want to do one more example, and then I'm going to switch over to talking about folders a little bit. So I'm going to jump to the contact section and do this example there. Jump back into that advanced mode. And this time what I'm going to do is do a filter for all of the primary contacts for accounts. So as you probably know, within every account, you can mark one contact as the primary contact. So if I wanted to pull a list of all of the contacts who are primary contacts, this is how I would do that. Here again, we're going to use the plus button to connect to another section. We're in the contact section now. We want to filter based off of an account condition. So we're going to go ahead and search for account here. When I do that, you're going to see we have a couple of different options, and I want to talk about the difference between two of these. That's pretty important. So the account section, if I pick that, would be all contact to account connections, so not just the primary contacts. If I want to find all contacts where the accounts were in a certain industry or a certain city or whatever other account condition, doing that first option, the account section, would allow me to do that. It's actually not what I was going to do for this example. What I wanted for this example was to only find primary contacts. And the way that I can do that is, instead of using the general account connection, I can use the connection to the account section by the primary contact column. And that way, only contacts that have that relationship to an account of being the primary contact will be included in this search. And then I can either do count is greater than 0 or do exists, whichever I prefer. Go ahead and apply that. And this would now be a list of all of the contacts that are primary contacts for their accounts.